Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I have a layout process video for you today featuring black and white photos. And I don't do this terribly often, so as a challenge over at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge group, it was a challenge for me. So the first part was trying to figure out which photos I wanted to turn black and white. And usually I like to preserve the colors for in the future. You can see what colors, clothing and hair and all of that kind of stuff, decor, what colors were popular at the time. So these were medical photos, so I figured the colors don't matter as much here. And the benefit of using black and white photos is that you can then let your product colors shine. Now, my kit this month wasn't really full of a lot of color. It was a very neutral color palette. So as I'm working through these papers here from my kit, I knew I didn't want that bold stripe. It just wasn't right for a medical photo. And I'm thinking about matting my photos on this pink paper just to give a pop of color. And I'm playing around with it here. I thought, well, maybe I want more color, so I'll use that as the background paper. But then I decide the icon on that pink paper really isn't what I want for a medical layout. And as I was playing around with this blue paper, I realized I liked the back side of it, but when I glued my pieces together, oops, I had glued the front side of it. So I peel that apart and I get it re-adhered down, and I like the geometric blues of the background. That kind of reminds me of, you know, those medical gowns that you have to wear when you're in there. And I go back to matting my photos on a little bit of this pink, and that way I can get the color to show through without the icons. They're like speech bubbles with hearts in them, and that wasn't the icon that I wanted to show up, but just leaving a tiny bit of a border can work. Now, I'd cut everything down wrong, so here I am just trimming down my photos by 1/4 of an inch, and sometimes I'm taking off 1/8 of an inch on either side to make sure I'm not losing any of the important subject of the photo. So once those are trimmed down, then I'm ready to go ahead and mat them up, and it is working well to have this pink show through. So I like that. Since the top of my paper was already torn from a previous project, I went ahead and tore the bottom as well, and then I'm going to layer it up with this polka dot, which I trimmed down to have a fairly equal left and right, top and bottom polka dot pattern. And so that is one of my little nitpicky things that I can get obsessed with for a little bit. Now, I had thought I would make this kind of belly band across the two pieces of pattern paper on this split design with more of that blue, but I decided I really liked this tree sticker. And because this layout is about being that age where I won't mention the medical procedure, but I had to have a routine medical procedure for someone nearing their 50s. So anyway, being that age, I wanted to use some icons and embellishments that kind of show the passage of time, and these leafy trees that are kind of autumnal definitely show that passage of time. And then I wanted to, with my title here, I wasn't sure if I was going to put it all the way across the bottom, but then I decided this technique where I want to highlight the word that and give it emphasis. I'm that age. So I used a chipboard frame to highlight that word in particular. And then I'm going to pop up my photo cluster here around that chipboard frame because it is going to overlap, and I'm going to use that foam adhesive to pop it all up, and that conveniently creates a pocket for my journaling, which we'll get to in a bit. And then I turn to a little bit more embellishing. I'm going to add my age to one of these little embellishment clusters that I created in a previous video, and really I'm going to keep it simple here because I don't want to get too complicated. I had added a pair of knitting needles that just happened to be in the embellishment chipboards, and that is one of those, albeit stereotypical icons, but it is associated with being older. So I decided to add those on there since I had them, and I don't actually knit. I can't imagine using that embellishment for anything else. So it's here on this page. Next up, I turned to getting my journaling on my layout, and I have this foam sticker that says The Story, and I thought that would be a great element to add to a tab to pull this journaling in and out. So I trimmed that tab down to fit the embellishment just right, and I'm rounding up the corners of both the tab and the journaling block, and I almost put it on there, but then I realized, wait, I've got to run this through my printer to get my journaling on there. So I can't put that element on there first. Now I've shown this technique before, but just in case you haven't seen it, here it is again. I print out a copy of my journaling and test it out. And then when I make adjustments to it to get my journaling block to fit entirely on this paper, then I can use a temporary adhesive and make sure I hit the edges of this block well, and I put some extra on there just in case. I will line that up over the top of the printed journaling on the draft paper. And once that's in place with that temporary adhesive, I can run it back through my printer, and here it is coming right back out of the printer with that temporary adhesive on the back. All I have to do is just rub it off with my finger, and as you can see, it ends up in a little gummy ball that you can just throw away. But once I've got all that adhesive off, my journaling is nicely printed and ready to go. I can put my embellishment back there on top, and it will be easy to access from my page protector, and that embellishment actually acts as a little stopper so that the journaling doesn't fall down deep inside that pocket, and it is all good to go. So my final task here is just to finish adhering those embellishment choices down, and I included some buttons on this layout because I had them in my kit, and that is another one of those things that feels old-fashioned that goes along with aging. So here are a few close-up looks at this layout process and using those black and white photos to help tell stories about this aging process. I hope you got something useful out of this video. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up because that does help the YouTube algorithm. I will be back in a couple of days with another layout process video for you, featuring a few of the papers I have left in my counterfeit kit. Until then, have an artful day.